What up guys, Supermel983 here bringing you another album review, and this time we're going to be reviewing the new album from my favourite band of all times. You just knew this was coming, so let's get cracking with it. But yeah, I'm going to be reviewing the new Ingested album entitled Where Only Gods May Tread. This is released under Unique Later Records and will drop on August 14th. So yeah, like as I said, you should know by now, Ingested, they are my favourite band of all times. They are a deathcore band, death metal, whatever you want to pigeonhole them as. I absolutely love them and have done for many years. They, in my opinion, they solidify themselves as my favourite band of all times back in, I think it was 2012, I think I made that decision, when they released The Surreption in 2011, and it became my favourite album of that year. And then along with Surpassing the Boundaries of Human Suffering, I was just like, yeah, these guys are my favourite band. And since then, they have always stuck at the throne and never moved. They've never been toppled anytime, anywhere. Like, they've released so many good albums since then. I just can't fault them in any way, if you ask me. And their last album that came out in 2018, entitled The Level Above Human, was, in my opinion, one of the best albums that they have released so far. I loved the overall heaviness that they had on that album, and in all honesty, The Architect of Extinction, I did really love that album, and it still made me top albums of that year. I just don't go back to it as much now because I feel like The Level Above Human just absolutely blew it out of the water for me. It was absolutely fantastic, but I do still love The Architect of Extinction, and to this day, absolutely fantastic albums nonetheless. But then in 2019, we didn't get a new album, but we got a new EP, which I've got right here, which is called Call of the Void, which is signed by the entire band. But yeah, so this EP, I didn't know what to expect from the band, but with that slightly different style artwork, I was expecting something a little bit different. And this is an absolutely fantastic EP. If you want to check out my full review, I'll leave a link down below. But yeah, this is absolutely incredible stuff. This takes Ingested to more experimental territory with adding more epic elements, more melodic passages, and just experimenting with their sound, seeing where they could take the overall Ingested sound next. And after listening to this a bunch of times, it got me really excited to see what was going to come next for my favourite band. And now, in 2020, we have a new album entitled Where Only Gods May Tread. So yeah, it's 10 tracks and runs around 49 minutes in length. And what can you expect from this album? The best way I can describe it is a perfect merge between The Level Above Human and Call of the Void into one cohesive unit, and spitting out Where Only Gods May Tread, because this has all the elements of both releases that I loved, just combined into one unique release. And this is definitely a unique sounding album for Ingested, because this takes on less of a deathcore sort of atmosphere, but goes for a more a straightforward death metal atmosphere, whereas and sprinkling some other elements in there for good measure, which I'll get to in a little bit, because I feel like Ingested, since The Architect of Extinction, have been pushing for more of a straight up death metal sort of sound, while adding little slam elements just to complement the songs, you could say. Like, for example, like the styles of Suffocation and that New York sort of style death metal scene, you know, adding the relentless parts, the riffier parts, and then adding some slams here just to knock your teeth out, basically. Of the Dark Light is a perfect example of that. So I definitely feel like if that's sort of your sort of vibe, then this is definitely a release for you to check out. And the first tease that we got of this album was the first single of the release, which is the third track entitled Impending Dominance, which is definitely a dominating track on this album, and definitely one of my favourite go-to singles on this release. Not just because it was the first single we heard of it, but just because I feel like it really stands out, because it has that Level Above Human sort of mentality, really ridiculously heavy riffs, but then absolutely pounding slams in there for good measure towards like the end of the song, which is another example of, like, you don't need slams to be heavy, because when the slam comes, it's just already heavy, and then it's just pounded in the face just to make it that little bit more incredible. if you ask me. It's the only way I can really describe it. And then I believe the second single that they released was Dead Seraphic Forms, and then No Half Measures, which is the second track, and Dead Seraphic Forms is the sixth track. And then when I got the promo, they had just dropped the song Another Breath, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, when I got the promo, I stuck it straight on my phone and listened to it. I'm not even joking, probably about 4 or 5 times straight off the bat. And by the 5th listen, I was just like, wow, what a fucking release this is. This is absolutely fucking incredible, and definitely one of my favourite go-to albums at the moment, because I love what Ingested is creating on this album, because it's taken, like as I said, that combination of the heavier, meatier side of Level Above Human and the song structures and all that, but then sprinkling those melodies that were, and epica moments that we had on Call of the Void, just like sprinkling it on top, just to make this a bit more of a different take for Ingested, but definitely push them in a new sort of direction, which I think is going to push them in a different sort of direction, but it's still absolutely incredible and still loyal to the fans of their older stuff, with the heavier, slammier parts on here and the heavier riffs that really are just thick and chunky, man. Like, this is easily the chunkiest sound in Ingested album. The mix is fucking spot on. Everything just sounds so thick and juicy. I just can't fault it in any way, the mix. It's just absolutely incredible, which I believe this was mixed by the one of the guys from Cryptopsy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but absolutely incredible work on the mixing. But yeah, let's talk about the delivery on here. Lynn Jeffs, he is an absolute insane drummer, but his craft has just been grown and grown over the years, like since if you look at his days in Surpassing the Boundaries of Human Suffering to today, he has really honed in his craft. Like, he's a very fast drummer, especially those blistering double kicks that he does and those relentless blast beats. They are across this entire album, but there is a lot more attention to detail with the beats, like the grooves, the overall sounds. Like when you watch the recording diary, they took a lot more attention to detail with the overall cymbal sounds and the tones that we're going for on this album, and it really creates a more darker sort of atmosphere, and I definitely feel that on this album. It definitely encapsulated that really black sort of sound, not exactly blackened, just like really bleak and just overall gloomy sensation across this entire album, but it really works for Ingested and really pushes them in that sort of new like realm of their sound, you know, the next chapter in Ingested discography, and this is definitely the game changer for the band, if you ask me. But his drum work is absolutely fantastic, but I always loved his relentless stuff, but his grooves on this album, I just can't question them in any way. They are absolutely fantastic, so well done to Lynn on that front. This is the first album without Brad on bass. Sadly, he parted ways with the band, I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken. And for this album, they've got the bassist from Ion Dissonance, I believe it is, doing the session bass work on here, and he does some absolutely incredible bass work on here. But the mix on the bass is absolutely fantastic. It's really thick sounding, but it cuts through the mix like a knife through butter, and it just echoes so fucking well, especially those melodies, those bass melodies on Leap of the Faithless, yeah, the last track, which is just, oh, that just soothing part just adds just that overall feels to it, and I absolutely love it personally. And then we'll get to the guitar work. Now, the guitar work is something that I've always admired from Ingested, especially the faster parts, the relentless riff work is just incredible. Absolutely fucking incredible. Every release they've done has just pushed new limits, and this one definitely takes on board a bit of a more darker, more epica sort of atmosphere to the riff writing. Not just the overall feels, but the riff writing is definitely taking on board a more monolithic sort of feel to it, and across the entire album, I might as well add. I mean, The List, which is a song I have to talk about, is an absolute monster of a song, and probably is one of my favourite songs, probably my second favourite song on this album. I just love the the use of 8 strings on this album, just that it just adds that overall gloomy, doomy, bleak sort of atmosphere to it, but it still feels so crushingly heavy. Like, most of the songs on this album, if I'm not mistaken, are in drop A, but when that song kicks in with that lower tune, and it just ruptures you inside with how dominating it sounds, and no pun intended. It literally feels dominating, that track. I absolutely love it. Another song that I would say the riff work is absolutely fantastic is Another Breath, which we'll get to again a little bit later. But Another Breath is just a more doomier sort of feel to it, and I think from Another Breath to the last track, Another Breath, Forsaken in Desolation, and Leap of the Faithless are definitely more doomy and gloomy sort of feeling tracks with a more epic atmosphere that really put us in mind a lot of Call of the Void, if you ask me. So if that sounds up your eye, definitely check out those songs. They are absolutely incredible. But yeah, and Jason's vocal work, man, his vocals are something that I really admire as a vocalist myself. I've always looked up to him, and he's definitely an influence on me when it comes to my vocals. But his vocal delivery on this album is just so menacing sound. He is definitely one of the most menacing sounding vocalists I've ever heard, and he still delivers on all fronts. But he's still growing as a vocalist, with his pronunciation getting better and better as each album progresses, and his lyrical delivery is absolutely fantastic. And it just, I can't fault his vocal delivery and his lyrics on this album, because they are some of the best work that he's done so far. So props to Jay for those amazing lyrics, absolutely incredible. And there's just so memorable as well. From the first listen to the 5th listen, you'll be singing the lyrics. I mean, I was, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, now we're going to get on to the guest spots, because Level Above Human and The Architect of Extinction had some really killer guest spots, and this 5th installment, yeah, this might be the best guest spot I think I've heard so far. So on The Burden of Our Failures features Vincent Bennett of the Acacia Strain, which, with that more epic atmosphere that they're going on, kind of puts us a lot in mind of the newer sounds of the Acacia Strain, for example, with their new album Slow Decay especially. But having Vincent's menacing, like, anger-filled vocals on top of the vocal delivery on this album, and I might as well add Sam and Sean's vocal delivery across this entire album are absolutely incredible as well. I keep on forgetting that they do backing vocals on here, but it just accents the vocals, just makes them just differentiate a little bit, kind of in the same sort of lines of Dying Fetus sort of way. That's the way I feel about the vocals anyway. But yeah, Vincent's vocal delivery on that is just so angry and just full of animosity. I absolutely love his vocal delivery. And then on the 8th track, Black Pill, we have Matt Honeycutt from Kubla Khan TX, the hardcore band, yeah, that are making waves in the scene at the moment. And then new album, Absolute, I believe it's called. Absolutely incredible album. And his vocals, just like Vincent, are just full of so much animosity and anger. I just was hoping that he would make an appearance on this album, because, I mean, it's just a match made in heaven, Jay and Matt's vocals. I mean, it just sounds too fucking good, man. Too fucking good, if you ask me. And then we get to my favourite track on this album, my favourite fucking track, and it was a song that they released when I got this promo, and that is Another Breath featuring Kirk Weinstein of Crowbar. Now, I knew, I had a feeling that when they toured with Ingested, I think it was 2019 or 2018, I can't remember off the top of my head. I was gutted when I couldn't go to that tour, but I was hoping that they would get a guest spot from him on an album. And my prayers have been answered. My prayers have been answered, because this song, along with Malevolence, The Other Side, are up there as being my favourite songs of this year, because I cannot stop listening to this song. It's absolutely fantastic. The prowess, the power, the emotion, and just the overall feels of that song, man, are just wow, it just hits you. It just hits you because you don't expect it. Like, leading through the tracks and then you get to another breath, it just takes your breath away. Literally, you need to take another breath just to be like, wait a minute. Am I actually hearing this? Am I actually fucking hearing this? Because it is absolutely incredible. It'll boggle your mind, because it did mine. I think this album is absolutely incredible. And then the last track, the epic, I think it's like 9 minutes or something like that. Maybe even 7. I'm not too sure off the top of my head. But yeah, that last track, Leap of the Faithless. Wow, what an epic conclusion. That is, that actually feels like the Call of the Void in just one song. I'll get those vibes entirely through that. And quite frankly, it's the perfect conclusion to the album, and it puts you in awe at the end. And quite frankly, this is going to be up there in my top albums, easily guaranteed to be in the top 10, easily. I'm not too sure, because we've had so many good albums this year that where everything's going to go at this moment. But honestly, this album is absolutely fantastic. It fits so well in the Ingested discography, and it just shows their progression over the years. And now we arrive to this album, it's absolutely fantastic. Make sure you check this out, make sure you get your pre-orders in. For an overall score though, I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic album, and Ingested continuing to prove why they are my favourite band of all times. Absolutely incredible, and I just cannot wait to see them in Newcastle later this year, and hopefully COVID does us all a favour and fuck right off. But, you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll see you until next video, and remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.